The controversial proposal for an Alberta to BC pipeline may potentially take a different route. According to the Globe and Mail, the federal government is eyeing a new route through BC's south.
And I see this as a positive evolution in the federal position.
The Globe is reporting that two federal sources say the route would run through southern BC to the port of Vancouver, either alongside the Trans Mountain Pipeline or another path. And that's instead of the northern route that Alberta's government has been pushing for. BC's climate minister says he's open to a conversation with Ottawa, but says the idea was not brought to the province directly.
Canada appears to be standing at a pivotal moment that could redefine its economic direction and global energy strategy. A proposed pipeline project has emerged as a central piece of this transformation, promising to expand oil exports, strengthen domestic production, and reduce reliance on traditional partners. At the same time, the implications stretch beyond Canada's borders. If executed in a particular way, this initiative could quietly shift the balance of energy trade in North America, creating ripple effects for the United States, while political leaders continue to speak publicly about opportunity and cooperation. A more complex and uncertain story is developing behind the scenes. The roots of this proposal can be traced to an agreement between Mark Carney and Daniel Smith. In November, the two leaders signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at unlocking Alberta's energy potential and expanding export access beyond the United States. This move was influenced in part by ongoing trade tensions that had previously intensified under Donald Trump, prompting Canadian policymakers to reconsider how dependent the country should be on a single dominant market. The agreement outlined a vision for a new pipeline capable of transporting up to 1 million additional barrels of oil per day, primarily targeting growing demand in Asian economies. Despite the clarity of its ambition, the agreement left one essential question unanswered. The route of the pipeline was not defined. That single mission has since evolved into the most contentious element of the entire project, shaping debates across federal, provincial, and local levels. From Alberta's perspective, the preferred solution has remained consistent. Premier Smith has repeatedly advocated for a northern route that would carry oil to the port of Prince Rupert. This preference is driven by both geographic advantage and economic efficiency. Prince Rupert is widely recognized as the closest major North American port to key Asian markets, offering shipping routes that can reduce travel time by as much as 3 days compared to southern alternatives. In the competitive world of global energy exports, such time savings translate directly into cost reductions and improved market positioning. In addition to its location, Prince Rupert offers another critical advantage: depth. Its deepwater harbor can accommodate some of the largest crude oil tankers in operation, vessels capable of carrying approximately 2 million barrels in a single journey. This is particularly important for Alberta's oil sands, which produce heavy crude that benefits from larger-scale transportation. The ability to load massive tankers reduces the number of trips required, lowers shipping costs per barrel, and enhances overall efficiency. The federal government appears to be considering a different path. Reports suggest that Ottawa may favor a southern route that would direct oil to Vancouver. This option could involve leveraging existing infrastructure, potentially expanding or aligning with the Trans Mountain Pipeline, or constructing a new line along a similar corridor. The southern route may seem more practical. It builds upon established pathways and avoids some of the legal complications associated with northern development. Yet this approach introduces its own set of challenges, many of which directly impact the project's long-term viability. One of the most significant limitations is Vancouver's port capacity. Unlike Prince Rupert, Vancouver cannot accommodate the largest crude carriers. Instead, it primarily supports Aframax-class tankers, which carry considerably less oil per shipment. This limitation means that more voyages would be required to transport the same volume of crude, increasing operational costs and placing additional strain on port infrastructure. Efforts are underway to address some of these constraints. Plans to deepen sections of the Burrard Inlet aim to allow tankers to operate at higher capacity levels. However, these upgrades may not fully resolve the fundamental limitation imposed by vessel size. Even with improvements, the southern route could struggle to match the efficiency and scale offered by the northern alternative. Political reactions to these developments have been measured, but revealing. British Columbia officials, including Energy Minister Adrian Dix and Premier David Eby, have expressed cautious support for the southern route. Their position is shaped less by enthusiasm for pipeline expansion and more by firm opposition to the northern option. This opposition is rooted in both environmental concerns and established legal frameworks. A long-standing oil tanker ban along British Columbia's northern coast prohibits large crude carriers from operating in the region. This legislation effectively blocks the use of Prince Rupert for major oil exports unless it is repealed or significantly amended. Such a move would likely face intense political resistance and public scrutiny. Environmental considerations add further weight to this resistance. Northern coastal ecosystems are considered particularly fragile, and the potential risks associated with increased tanker traffic have been a source of concern for years. Many communities, including indigenous groups, have consistently voiced their opposition to lifting the tanker bans or expanding industrial activity in the region. First Nations play a crucial role in this process. Under Canadian law, major infrastructure projects that affect Indigenous lands require meaningful consultation and, in many cases, consent. This principle applies regardless of which route is ultimately chosen. Even if a southern path is pursued, the pipeline would still cross territories where Indigenous approval is necessary. Without it, the project could face legal challenges that delay progress or halt construction altogether. Despite the apparent alignment between federal preferences and British Columbia's position, the situation remains far from resolved. Officials have been careful not to present the southern route as a final decision, acknowledging that significant questions remain unanswered. Among these questions, financial feasibility stands out. The experience of the Trans Mountain expansion serves as a powerful reminder of how unpredictable pipeline projects can be. Initially projected to cost $5.4 billion, the expansion ultimately exceeded $34 billion. The federal government was forced to step in, purchasing the project and absorbing the financial burden to ensure its completion. This history casts a long shadow over the current proposal, constructing a new pipeline along an entirely new route, particularly through terrain that has not previously been developed for such infrastructure. Introduces additional risks. Costs could escalate rapidly, timelines could extend beyond initial projections, and private investors may be hesitant to participate without substantial government guarantees. At present, the proposed pipeline lacks a clear funding model. There is no confirmed private sector proponent, and the extent of government support remains uncertain. This creates a gap between the project's strategic ambition and its practical execution. Complicating matters further are environmental policy commitments tied to the original agreement. Alberta had agreed to implement several climate-related initiatives, including updates to carbon pricing mechanisms and the expansion of carbon capture systems. However, not all of these commitments have been fulfilled. This shortfall could complicate federal approval processes, as environmental performance is a critical factor in evaluating larger-scale infrastructure projects. Time is also becoming a pressing factor. Alberta faces a deadline to submit a formal application for the pipeline by July 1. Premier Smith has indicated that her government will likely propose the northern route, even as signals from Ottawa suggest a preference for the south. This divergence sets up a potential conflict between provincial priorities and federal direction, adding another layer of uncertainty to an already complex situation. The decision between a northern and southern route is not merely a technical one, it reflects broader strategic choices about Canada's energy future. A northern route offers greater efficiency, larger shipping capacity, and stronger alignment with the goal of expanding exports to Asia. However, it faces significant legal and political barriers that could prove difficult to overcome. A southern route, while more feasible in regulatory terms, may limit the project's overall effectiveness due to infrastructure constraints and higher operational costs. For Canada, the stakes are considerable. Successfully developing this pipeline could enhance its position as a major global energy supplier and reduce dependence on a single export market. It could also open new economic opportunities and strengthen ties with rapidly growing Asian economies. At the same time, the broader geopolitical implications cannot be ignored. As Canada diversifies its export destinations, the United States could see a gradual reduction in its role as the primary buyer of Canadian oil. This shift would not occur immediately, but over time it could alter the dynamics of energy trade across North America.